Laura, thank you for joining me today. Nice to see you again. Perhaps we could start with the question, what is it that UK boarding schools are looking for in international students?
Sure. Boarding schools love our international pupils and our international community. I think one of the best things about being in boarding is having that breadth of people from all over the world. What we look for, I suppose, is the willingness to contribute, to engage in every part of school life, not just on the academics, but of course that's important, that's why we're all here, but actually, really exploring everything that a boarding school can have to offer. So getting involved in the extra and co-curricular things, whether that's music or art, drama, sport, anything that is important to that child, they should be getting involved in. Building friendships, signing up for trips, just being engaged and being an active member of the community. We're looking for diversity of interests. So we want people who, we don't just necessarily want all girls that are interested in music or just sporty girls or pupils indeed, but actually we want people from all walks of life, all sorts of interests, and really, contributing to that richness of community.
Great, thank you. And a question I get asked an awful lot for parents whose children are starting school in September is, what can the parents do to prepare their children for life the other side of the world in a UK boarding school?
Sure, it's a big decision. And once you've made that decision, I think one of the most important things to do, there's some practical tips which I can offer, but actually one of the best things to do is to get excited with your child. So really get to know the house mistress or the house parent that's going to be looking after them and understand what those routines are going to look like, when they're going to be able to phone home, what the contact arrangements are going to be, so that both you and your child are really prepared for what those first few days, weeks, months are going to look like. Every school will have slightly different technology rules, for example, and it's really useful if parents sort of have that understanding before they join so that everybody's on the same page. I think there are some practical tips in terms of helping your child be organised and getting that independence, building those skills up before they join will really, really help them out. Things like being able to change a bed, change a bed sheet, learning how to do simple things like that. They will be required to do that when they come to a boarding school. So if they can change a single bed on their own, then that's wonderful.
And we advocate for our families when they're looking at various schools in the UK, we encourage them to come to England with their children to visit the boarding schools, to see what they're about, have a look at the campus, meet the key staff members. Is that something you would agree with? Absolutely.
Yes, I mean, we've all got beautiful websites and, fantastic social media accounts, but really there is nothing like walking through the doors of a school to really understand as a parent whether that's going to be a good fit. You can sense it. You can sense it when you meet the other pupils. You can sense it when you talk to staff. You get a sense of the environment, the ethos. It's almost, the key thing. I often liken it to buying a house. Sometimes you can go and view a beautiful house and you can walk through the doors and just have a sense that it's not quite right for me for whatever reason. Sure. And choosing a school is of just fundamental importance, and you have to be able to see your child flourishing in that environment. So definitely come and have a look. I would say don't come too early. It's lovely to get a sense of these schools, but you don't need to come when they're babes in arms. You can come when it's becoming a little bit more of a reality and you've got a sense and an understanding of who they're becoming and what sort of person they are, because really that's when you're going to be able to see, okay, my child is sportily minded and loves being outdoors and loves to have the space to run and play and explore and get grubby knees. And you may go to an inner city school and go, oh, this looks fantastic on the website and it's a great school with great results, but this isn't quite going to meet my child's needs. So you absolutely need to come and build the relationship. That's another really key thing. So we want to get to know our applicants. We want to know them as much as possible so that when we're making those decisions, we know that that child is going to thrive. And we're confident in our decision that, yes, we know that we've got everything in place to be able to scaffold that child and make sure that they thrive. So the more that you can build those relationships with the admissions teams, with staff, as you come and interact with them, like you say, whether it's an open day or a coffee morning, experience days, schools are really, really good at putting on events that parents are able to join, their children are able to join, and really sort of experience not just a show day, but a reality of what life is like.
Understood. Yep, great advice. I couldn't agree with you more. And so a family's looking for September down the line. How far before that September should they perhaps visit a school like Wycombe or start the application process?
Sure. Gone are the days where registration is needed at birth.
Sure.
So that was a very old-fashioned thing, and there is still possibly some thought out there that you have to put your child's name down at birth or there's absolutely no choice. And some people do, and fantastic. And we love that people know that they want to apply for a school like Wycombe that early on. But really, a couple of years out is great. So we begin at 11. We take girls, we call it year 7. Well, year 7, we call it upper 3. There's all sorts of different names, different vernacular, and every school will be slightly different as well. But we start at 11, which is the beginning of the senior years. And so I would say when girls are about 8, that's a perfect time to sort of start to begin that journey, come and have a chat to us. And then every school will have a registration deadline. Sure. Some will be quite late and close to the point of entry. Others will be early, where Wycombe Abbey closes their registrations in June, the year prior to entry. So there's still quite a lot of time.
Still quite a time. Okay, great. Thank you, Laura. So Wycombe Abbey, obviously all-girls school, world famous all-girls school. In your opinion, what do you think the advantages are of an all-girls education?
This is an easy one because we've got so much to talk about. Look, girls do better in girls' environments. That's the proven fact. We know it. We have seen time and time again. There is a plethora of data and analytics out there that girls perform better when they're in girls' schools. And I think that what girls' schools offer is an environment which is so nurturing, enriching, challenging. It allows girls to become who they are. And the academics, we're very, very lucky that at Wycombe Abbey, maths and science by far our most popular A-levels, and a huge proportion of girls go on to study those subjects at university. That isn't as prevalent in co-ed schools. Leadership opportunities. Every girl here holds the opportunity or has the opportunity to apply for a leadership position, or indeed has those positions. There's peer mentoring. There's challenge and a huge amount of intellectual debate, which happens when you are surrounded by other girls, other women who are as ambitious or as creative or as dynamic as you, and really packaged up together in an environment that is designed to teach girls how they learn best.
Without perhaps the distraction of boys.
Without the distraction of boys. Having said that though, boys are a huge part of life. They are indeed. And so, we have a fantastic relationship with our boys' schools locally. So Eton and Radley and Winchester, RGS, which is a school just down the road. And so our girls have a lot of socials with the boys. So the fun socials are, dances or discos or things like that. But there's also a lot of co-curricular activities. So there might be a chess competition. There might be a shared speaker that we go and listen. We have lots and lots of things like that, which actually, schools are able to collaborate on. It's not saying that boys are not to be looked at until after school. Certainly not. But really, we know that in the classroom, those girls are going to thrive in an environment where they don't have the distraction of their male counterparts.
Makes sense, yeah. Okay, thank you, Laura. Makes sense. Okay, so probably the most common question we're asked as an agency by our families is, what do entrance tests for UK boarding schools comprise of? How are they delivered? And importantly, what can we do to prepare our child for those tests?
Sure.
And perhaps, what are the common mistakes you may see as a registrar as
Yes, well? Okay. So we don't make it easy. I'm sorry. So all of the boarding schools will have a slightly different way that they tackle entrance and admissions processes. So your starting point is the website. So go on and really familiarise yourself with what the process is on paper, and then give your friendly admissions team a call of the schools that you want to speak to, and we can talk you through that process. Some schools will assess entirely online, and therefore they don't have a requirement for that child to come to the UK. At Wycombe, I can talk a little bit about that. We do require girls to come to the UK, but we have a 2-stage process. Lots of schools, including us, will have some sort of pre-test, some sort of cognitive abilities test, which will give us a really good understanding of learning profile, potential, all of that kind of stuff wrapped up quite neatly. And those tests are online, so of course can be sat anywhere in the world. For 11 plus, so we take the majority of girls at 11, year 7, and we ask all girls to sit the ISEB pretest, and that is a test that comprises English, maths, verbal reasoning, and non-verbal reasoning. So those 4 elements are sat. They can be sat over 4 different days. They can be sat over 1 day. We're quite flexible with how the test is taken, because that part is online and that can be sat from wherever the child is in the world. Now, some schools may use that as a shortlisting tool, and this is something to check really carefully to see whether you need to pass the first stage or if indeed that is something that needs to be taken into consideration. We don't. All of the girls sit that pre-test, and then all of the girls come from all over the globe and come to Wycombe Abbey for our assessment day. So our assessment day comprises assessments, as one might expect. So we do English and maths papers. Now, they're a little different to the English and maths sections of the ISEB pretest. These are written by our heads of department in-house. They're designed to be challenging. They're designed for us to be looking at not only the answers that the girls give, but how those questions are answered. We then have a carousel of different activities. So we will do some team building, some running around. We're looking at girls in groups of about 16 to 18, and we're seeing how they work together. We're seeing that collaboration piece. Are these girls getting engaged and having some fun? We will look at them in the classroom. So we'll give them a classroom-based task to work on in a small group of, say, 4 or 5 girls, something like that. And we'll also do a bit of fun. So we tend to do a bit of Disney sing-along or karaoke style, but just all good fun, because we want to see how these girls are when they're relaxed. We have an interview on the same day, and also lots of break and lunch, because trying the food is of critical importance. So look, when you're preparing for entrance tests, schools are looking at all sorts of different things, and every school will have different academic criteria that they want to fulfill. They'll be looking at the diversity of the applicants. They'll be looking where they're coming from, their educational background to date. All of these sorts of things are taken into consideration. Most senior schools, if not all senior schools, will have requested a reference from the girls' school or the child's school beforehand. And those references play a really big part, because they give us a very detailed idea of how that child is sitting in their cohort currently, what type of pupil they are. These schools know them best. We're just trying to get to know them. So when you're making your decisions, or when schools are making their decisions, and certainly when I'm making the decisions along with our head and deputy head academic for Wycombe, we're looking at ISEB pretest results, coupled with the reference, coupled with all the information that we know from the parents. And this can go back years, when we first met them on an open day or on a coffee morning, we start to build that picture up together. We look at English paper results, the maths paper results, how they did in the team building, how they did in the classroom, what their interview score was like. And we're really then able to see a sort of fairly holistic picture of each of these girls. And even though there's a large number of applicants, we actually feel like we're making, again, it comes back to that piece about making sure that we've got the right fit, the right girls that are going to thrive here. And so that's how it works for us. Common pitfalls, over preparation. So it's a funny thing, and particularly with schools that have a wonderful academic reputation like Wycombe does. There seems to be this need that they must be tutored and, nose to the grindstone for years before they're sitting these tests. But sometimes that can actually fall or cause a lower performance, because girls get so focused on that outcome, they forget to be themselves. Or it comes at, tutoring then comes at the expense of just childhood. So for us particularly, yes, there's brilliant familiarization tests and practice papers and things like that which are out there. You can get those from ISEB or from whichever other school or whichever other test that schools are using. Contact your admissions departments, get to know them, see if there's any guidance that they can give you. I would say that it's really important to understand that the tests are really, really important, but they are not the only thing that schools are looking at. We are aware that these pupils are applying from all over the world, and that there are a whole different number of educational backgrounds that these children have come from. So of course, there might be some subjects that just haven't been covered.
Sure.
that's fine. We will mark accordingly. When we're looking at those things, we have that understanding, we have that context in mind. The interview is a key part of what goes on as well. So I think one of the best pieces of advice I can give people is do interview practice. Get comfortable talking to grown-ups. This isn't something that is designed to be scary. It's designed to be a warm and open conversation, between an adult and the child applying, to sort of get to know who they are. We want them to be able to, talk up the things that they like and argue the things that they don't like. Some of the best candidates we've had have just talked so naturally about their, pet snail, or whatever it might be. I think it's important that there's passion, that there's articulation, that there's the ability for these children to know themselves. I think often when there's a lack of that or pre-prepared answers, our interviewers are so skilled, and this is across all of my colleagues in all of the boarding schools in the UK. We are so skilled at seeing where these girls have been prepped or these children have been prepped, and it works against them. Be natural, be authentic, give your child the opportunity to talk to lots of different people and ask them and get them involved in current affairs and world news. There's some brilliant resources for news channels for kids or newspapers for kids. The Week is a great magazine that parents can look at, but it engages children in the world around them. So then when we ask them if they've got an opinion on something, they might know about it.
Sure. Understood. Good advice. Thank you, Laura. And so for a lot of our families, life at a UK boarding school can be quite foreign. It's not an environment they're familiar with. They may have visited some schools, but the reality is they perhaps don't know the day-to-day of what a day looks like at a UK school. So typically in UK schools, what is a typical day? How does it work? What are the timings?
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a funny question because there's probably no such thing as a typical day. I'm sorry, that's probably not what you want to hear. But it is a different environment, and boarding is brilliant because it's busy. There's lots going on. There's lots for children to dip into as and when they want to. But largely for us, children might wake up at about 7, something like that, down to breakfast after having a shower or getting themselves dressed for say 7:20. That's communal. That's with their friends. That's lots of chat. They will then walk down to school. Registration is about 8:20. Now at Wycombe we have quite long days, so we have 12-period days. So school will finish about 5:20 most days. But for us, certainly, that's not filled just with academic lessons. There's some academic lessons. There'll be some free periods in there for prep, which is a common word for homework or work set outside of lessons. There'll be extras in there. So if a girl has additional fencing lessons or tennis lessons or a bassoon lesson, they'll be fitted in the day as well as times for lunch, for breaks. And in those sessions, there's clubs and societies and activities that go on. So really, one of the blessings of being in a boarding school is that there's no commuting time. Gone are the hours spent in a car trying to get from A to B. It's all on site. So if your daughter or your child is a really passionate actress and she wants to have extra drama lessons, that's great. We can fit that into her day, or she can do it after school. And that's not compromising her lunch times. It's not compromising dinner or sleep. We can fit it all in so that every child is able to have the day that is entirely designed around what they want to do. So there's lots and lots of things. Bedtime as well. So in the evenings after school, typically most boarding schools will have this the prep setup where there shouldn't be any work done in-house or at home. You should have done all that in school, and then when you go back to the house, that really is home. That's where your things are, your bed is, your dorm mates are, your house parents are. And you go back and invariably there's something on in the evening. That might be something as relaxing as just watching a film or having some hot chocolate and squirty cream or whatever it is in the evenings. There might be, I know one of the boarding houses here loves doing Fruity Fridays, so smoothie making. There's some gingerbread house decorating at the moment, which is happening. But there's always something on in the evenings, and girls are very, very welcome to take part in that. If they just need a bit of time to chill on their bed and read a book, that's great, that's lovely. And we really encourage that work-life balance or school-life balance. And bedtime, probably about 9 o'clock, 9:15 for girls joining in upper 3.
Interesting. It's your comment around no commuting. I hear that a lot. That saves a massive amount of time. And obviously, like you said, the days are full and fulfilling, really. Between lessons and extracurricular, there's an awful lot going on. And so, Laura, I think maybe just to finish with, we started by talking about what schools are looking for in international students. Perhaps we can finish with, where do students, domestic, overseas, from UK boarding schools, where do they go? Where do they tend to go after their school at 18?
Sure. Well, invariably they head into higher education. Occasionally some pupils will take a gap year, but really we're looking, if I speak of Wycombe, our girls are heading into higher education, typically in the UK, but more and more so internationally. All boarding schools will have the provision to support girls through those UCAS applications and understanding where they're going. For us at Wycombe, particularly with girls that are applying internationally, we start that programme really early in year 10, so we're preparing them for that breadth that the international universities tend to require. And to read a plethora of different subjects. So for Wycombe girls, those STEM subjects are really, really strong, those maths and sciences, but we also have girls going off to read theology and classics and English and politics and all sorts of different things. So I think what's really important is that schools are understanding the child's aspirations, that they understand the type of person that they are, and that they're helping them to understand the differences between the courses that are on offer from those top universities, because it's not just about the name, it's about making sure that they're making, again, the next right step, the right choice to get them to where they want to be in life.
Brilliant. Laura, thank you. Great answer. I certainly learned a lot today.
Good.
I know our customers, obviously, or people watching will have learned a lot. So I'm really very grateful to you for your time. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay.